The desert sun had just dipped below the horizon when the school bus rolled to a stop at the corner of Maple and Fifth. Ethan Keller, 10 years old, backpack slung over one shoulder, was the last kid waiting to board. He'd stayed late helping Mrs. Patterson clean erasers, something he did every Tuesday without being asked. His dad always said helping people was what separated good men from everyone else. The bus door hissed open. Ethan climbed the three rubber-coated steps, expecting to see Mr. Garrison behind the wheel with his usual coffee-stained smile and terrible jokes about geometry. Instead, a man he'd never seen before sat in the driver's seat, younger, cleaner, no smile at all. "New driver?" Ethan asked, gripping the handrail. The man nodded once. "Mr. Garrison called in sick. I'm covering his route." Something felt off. The man's uniform was too new, too crisp. No coffee cup, no radio playing oldies. But Ethan was 10, and 10-year-olds don't question adults wearing official uniforms. That's what his dad taught him about respect and authority. So he walked down the aisle to his usual seat, fifth row on the right, and dropped his backpack between his feet. 5 other kids were already on board. Ivy Martinez, 9, sitting up front with her math homework spread across her lap. Damon Wells, 11, slouched in the back with headphones on. Ruby Patterson, 8, Mrs. Patterson's daughter, drawing horses in her notebook. Sky Morrison, 10, staring out the window. Jet Holloway, 7, the smallest of them, all clutching a toy dinosaur. Ethan knew them all. Ridgemont Elementary wasn't big enough for strangers. The bus door closed. The engine rumbled. They pulled away from the curb, heading east instead of west. Ethan noticed but didn't say anything. Maybe there was construction. Maybe a detour. Adults had reasons for things. 10 minutes passed. The streets grew unfamiliar. Ethan sat up straighter, looking out the window. They were heading toward the industrial side of town, where the old factories sat empty and rusted. His dad had taken him there once to show him what happened when communities forgot to take care of each other. Broken windows, graffiti, weeds growing through cracked asphalt. "Excuse me," Ethan called toward the front. "I think we're going the wrong way." The driver didn't answer. Ivy looked up from her homework. "Yeah, this isn't the road." Damon pulled off his headphones. "Yo, driver, you lost or something?" The bus slowed, stopped. The driver reached up and flipped a switch. The interior lights went out. Then he stood turned around, and Ethan saw his face clearly for the first time. Cold eyes, a scar shaped like a dragon curling up the side of his neck. Something about that scar tugged at Ethan's memory, but he couldn't place it. 2 more men stepped out from the very back of the bus where the emergency exit was. They must have been crouched down the whole time. One was tall and lean with a buzz cut. The other was heavy-set, wearing a tactical vest with too many pockets. "What's going on?" Ruby whispered. The driver pulled something from his pocket, a small canister. He pressed the top, and a fine mist sprayed into the air. Sweet, chemical, wrong. Ethan's lungs burned. He tried to hold his breath, but his body betrayed him. He gasped. The world tilted. Ivy slumped forward onto her homework. Damon's headphones clattered to the floor. Ruby dropped her notebook. Sky's head hit the window with a soft thump. Jet's dinosaur fell from his hands. Ethan fought it. He dug his fingernails into the seat, tried to stand, tried to scream, but the darkness swallowed him whole. When he woke, everything hurt. His head throbbed. His mouth tasted like rust. His wrists burned. He blinked, trying to focus. Concrete floor, dim light from a single bulb hanging overhead, the smell of mold and oil and old machinery. He was sitting against a wall, hands tied behind his back with rough rope. The other 5 kids were arranged in a circle around him, all bound the same way. Ivy was crying silently, tears cutting clean lines through the dust on her face. Damon stared at nothing. His jaw clenched so tight Ethan could see the muscles twitching. Ruby was whispering to herself the same prayer over and over. Sky rocked back and forth, knees pulled to her chest. Jet had wet himself and was shaking so hard his whole body blurred. Ethan tested the rope. It was tight, professionally tied. His wrists were already raw skin rubbed away in thin strips. Blood trickled down his palms. The room they were in was large industrial, old factory floor, rusted machinery pushed against the walls, broken windows 20 feet up too high to reach. One door metal with a deadbolt on the outside. They were on the second floor. Ethan could tell by the angle of the light and the way sound echoed. His dad's voice echoed in his head. In enemy territory, map every exit, count every weapon, identify every threat. Ethan forced himself to focus. One door, no windows within reach, 3 captors probably armed, no visible cameras, but that didn't mean they weren't being watched. The metal door opened. The driver walked in. Up close in better light, Ethan studied his face. Mid-40s, strong jawline, military posture, that dragon scar curling up from his collar, and those eyes pale blue, the kind that looked right through you. The man crouched down in front of Ethan. You're the smart one, aren't you, I can tell. You've been looking around analyzing. Ethan didn't answer. My name is Owen Strand. I'm not going to lie to you, son. You and your friends are collateral. Your parents are going to pay money to get you back. $50,000 each. When they pay, you go home. Simple business transaction. Our parents don't have that kind of money, Ethan said. His voice came out steadier than he felt. Owen smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Then they'll find it. People always find it when it matters. He stood, walked over to Ivy. She flinched. Owen ignored her, checking the rope on her wrists with the efficiency of someone who'd done this before. Then Damon, Ruby, Sky, Jet. Each inspection, cold, mechanical, detached. When he reached the door, he paused. The 2 men outside are Trent and Ridley. Trent smokes too much and has a bad cough. Ridley eats constantly and carries a shotgun. They're not nice like me. Don't test them. Don't make noise. Don't cause problems. Do that and you'll see your families again. The door closed. The deadbolt slid into place with a sound like a coffin ceiling. Ethan counted to 60. Then he whispered, "Everybody okay?" "We're tied up in a factory," Damon hissed. "How could we possibly be okay? I mean injured, hurt, bleeding." One by one they checked in. Bruises, rope burns, fear, but nothing broken, nothing life-threatening. Yet. "What do we do?" Ruby asked. Ethan closed his eyes, thought about his dad. Beckett Keller wasn't the kind of man who panicked. He was a teacher now, but before that, he'd been a Marine. He'd seen combat. He'd survived things he never talked about. And he'd trained Ethan not with drills or exercises, but with conversations. Stories, lessons disguised as bedtime talks. "We survive," Ethan said. "We watch, we learn, we wait for an opening." "What opening?" Sky whispered. "We're kids. They're adults with guns. Adults make mistakes. We just have to be ready when they do." The hours crawled by. Trent, the tall one with the buzz cut, came in twice. Once to give them water from a plastic jug. Once to let them use a bucket in the corner that served as a bathroom. He didn't speak, didn't look at them, just did his job and left. Ridley, the heavy one, came in around what Ethan guessed was midnight. He was eating a sandwich mayo dripping onto his vest. He had kind eyes, which somehow made it worse. He checked their ropes, adjusted jets, because the boy had been pulling at it, and made it tighter, then left half his sandwich on the floor near Ruby. "Why'd he do that?" Damon asked after the door closed. "Because he feels guilty," Ethan said, "which means he's not a monster, which means he can be reasoned with." "Or he's fattening us up," Ivy said, her voice hollow. Nobody laughed. Day 2 was worse. The reality set in. The rope burns deepened. Hunger became a constant ache. The concrete floor sucked the warmth from their bodies. Jet cried until he had no tears left, then just made dry heaving sounds. Ruby stopped praying and went silent. Sky rocked faster. Damon pulled at his ropes until his wrist bled, then gave up. Ethan watched everything. Trent came at 9 a.m., 3 p.m., and 9 p.m., always smoking right before he entered and always coughing after. He stood guard outside the door, and Ethan could hear him hacking up phlegm every 20 minutes. Ridley came at noon and midnight, always eating, always guilty. Owen appeared once on day 2. He brought a phone, put it on speaker, and made Ethan talk to his dad. Ethan, Beckett's voice cracked like breaking glass. Ethan, are you okay? I'm fine, Dad. Don't worry about me. I'm going to get you home, son. I promise. Owen ended the call. Your father's a good man. He's already started gathering the money. See, this will all be over soon. After Owen left, Ethan cried for the first time. Not from fear, from shame. His dad was a teacher. They didn't have money. Beckett would have to destroy himself financially to pay that ransom. Sell the house, drain his retirement, borrow from dangerous people, and it was all Ethan's fault for getting on that bus. It's not your fault, Ivy whispered, reading his face. None of this is our fault. But Ethan couldn't shake it. Day 3, the day everything changed. Ethan had been watching the window in the corner bathroom. It was small, maybe 2 feet across, with rusted bars welded over it. But rust weakens metal, and Beckett had taught him about leverage and patience. When Ridley brought them water at noon, Ethan asked to use the bathroom. Ridley untied him, walked him to the bucket, retied him after. But Ethan had seen what he needed to see. One of the bars was loose at the bottom, not much, just enough. He spent the afternoon working the bar with his feet every time Trent wasn't looking. Push, pull, wiggle. The rust flaked away. The weld cracked. By 6 p.m., it was loose enough to bend. At 8 p.m., Ethan asked Ridley for water. You just had some, Ridley said through a mouthful of sandwich. Please, I'm really thirsty. Ridley sighed, walked over, gave Ethan 3 sips from the jug. As he did, Ethan looked him in the eyes. Really looked. Saw the guilt, the exhaustion, the self-loathing. You have kids, Ethan asked. Ridley froze. Don't. I bet you do. I bet you're doing this for them. Medical bills, maybe. Or debt, something that made you desperate. Kids, stop talking. I'm not mad at you. I just want you to know that. Whatever happens, I won't be mad. Ridley's hands shook as he screwed the cap back on the jug. He left without another word. At 9 p.m., Trent came for his shift change. Ethan heard him coughing outside, heard Owen's voice low and tired, heard a car engine start and fade away. Then silence. Ethan waited 30 minutes. Then he whispered Ivy, Damon, Ruby, Skydee, Jet. I'm going to get us out of here. How? Damon asked. The bathroom window. I loosened one of the bars. I can fit through. There's a drain pipe outside. I saw it this morning. I can climb down. Then what? Sky asked. Then I run. Find help. Come back for you. They'll hear you, Ruby said. Not if you cover for me. Make noise. Distract them. What if they heard us? Jet whispered. Ethan looked at each of them. They won't. They need you alive. But if I don't go now, we're never getting out. My dad taught me something. He said courage isn't about not being scared. It's about doing what's right even when you're terrified. I'm terrified, but I'm going. Ivy nodded first, then Damon, Ruby, Sky, even Jet. Okay, Ethan said. On my signal, start singing, loud. Something Trent will hear. What song? Doesn't matter, just loud. Ethan worked his hands. The ropes were tight, but his wrists were slick with blood. He twisted, pulled, ignored the pain. One hand slipped free, then the other. He flexed his fingers, getting blood flow back. He stood, legs shaking, walked to the bathroom corner, gripped the loose bar, bent it back, the metal groaned. He froze, listened. Trent was still outside coughing. Ethan bent the bar again. It gave. He pushed it flat against the wall. The gap was narrow, maybe 18 inches. He was small for his age. Skinny. It might work. Now, he whispered. The 5 kids started singing. Row, row, row your boat. Off key, loud, desperate. Ethan heard Trent's voice. "Shut up in there." They sang louder. Trent opened the door. "I said shut up." Ethan was already through the window, his shoulders scraped, his ribs compressed. For one horrible second, he thought he was stuck. Then he twisted and gravity pulled him through. He fell 6 feet, landed on a metal awning, rolled off, dropped another 8 feet into a pile of trash bags. The impact knocked the wind out of him. He lay there gasping, tasting dirt and rot. Above, he heard Trent shouting. The singing stopped, footsteps running. Ethan forced himself up, looked around. He was behind the factory in an alley filled with debris. No lights, no people, just darkness and distant stars. His dad's voice again. "When you're lost, find high ground. Orient yourself. Don't panic." Ethan climbed onto a dumpster. From there, he could see the glow of Ridgemont in the distance. 3 miles, maybe more. He was barefoot. His feet were already bleeding from the broken glass in the trash pile. But he'd walked on worse during camping trips with his dad. He jumped down and started running. The desert landscape between the factory and town was unforgiving. Rocks, cacti, broken bottles. Every step was agony, but Ethan didn't stop. Couldn't stop. He thought about Ivy's face when he promised to come back, about Ruby's prayers, about Jet's toy dinosaur left behind on the bus. He ran until his lungs burned, until his legs cramped, until his vision blurred. Then he ran more. Lights appeared ahead. Street lights, civilization. He was close. The road turned to asphalt, easier on his feet, but still painful. He passed a closed gas station, a shuttered pawn shop. Then he saw it. Ridgemont Police Department. 2 stories, brick, American flag out front. Ethan stopped at the edge of the parking lot. His dad's voice whispered again, "Rules can't always save people. Sometimes you need warriors." The police had rules, protocols, procedures, paperwork. What if they didn't believe him? What if it took too long? What if Owen moved the other kids before anyone could act? Ethan turned away from the police station. He kept running. 2 blocks down, he heard it, the low rumble of engines, motorcycles, dozens of them. The sound grew louder, and Ethan followed it like a beacon. He turned a corner and saw the neon sign. Throttles bar 24/7. The parking lot was packed with Harleys, big ones, chrome gleaming under flickering lights. Men in leather jackets stood in clusters, smoking, laughing, their voices carrying in the night air. Ethan had passed this bar 100 times with his dad. Beckett always said the same thing. Those are the iron wolves, rough men. But rough doesn't mean bad. Some of them have seen hell and came back different. Respect them, and they'll respect you. Ethan walked toward the entrance. His bare feet left bloody prints on the concrete. His clothes were torn. His face was streaked with dirt and tears. He looked like he'd crawled out of a grave. The men outside stopped talking, stared. One of them, a younger guy with sleeve tattoos, stepped forward. "Kid, you okay?" Ethan didn't answer. He pushed through the door. Inside the bar was chaos. Music blaring, pool balls clacking. 40 men in leather, some playing darts, some arguing over a football game on TV, some just drinking in comfortable silence. The smell of beer and tobacco and old wood hit Ethan like a wall. Then the music cut off. 40 faces turned toward him. Ethan scanned the room. His eyes locked onto the biggest man he'd ever seen. 6'5" at least, shoulders like a bull, bald head covered in scars, tattoos crawling up his neck, hands the size of dinner plates, knuckles scarred and crooked from a lifetime of fights. But it was the eyes that stopped Ethan. Blue-gray, tired, kind. The same eyes his dad had when he talked about the war. Ethan walked straight toward him. The room stayed silent. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The big man set down his beer, looked down at Ethan with an expression Ethan couldn't read. Ethan reached up, grabbed the man's leather vest with both hands, and whispered the only words he had left. "Please don't let him take me again." The man didn't flinch, didn't pull away. He just placed one enormous hand on Ethan's shoulder, gentle as a father, and said, "Who's after you, kid?" Before Ethan could answer, the door exploded open behind him. Three men walked in. Owen Strand in the center, flanked by Trent and Ridley. All three were wearing tactical gear now. Vests, radios, ID badges hanging from lanyards that read Sentinel Security. They looked official, professional, legitimate. Owen's eyes found Ethan. He smiled, cold, calculating. "There's the little runner," Owen said. His voice carried across the silent bar. "Time's up, kid. Your parents want you back." Ethan's grip on the big man's vest tightened. Owen took a step forward, addressing the room. "My name is Derek Walsh, private security contractor. This boy was kidnapped 3 days ago from Ridgemont Elementary. His family hired us to find him. We've been tracking him for 72 hours. Now we're taking him home." The big man's hand stayed on Ethan's shoulder. "That right, kid?" Ethan shook his head. "He's confused," Owen said smoothly. "Trauma does that. Kidnapped children often misidentify their rescuers. It's textbook Stockholm Syndrome. We've seen it a dozen times." A man stepped forward from the crowd, tall, lean, with a salt and pepper beard and the posture of someone who'd been in charge of men before. He wore a patch on his vest that read Sergeant at Arms. "Then why is he scared of you?" the man asked. Owen's smile never faltered. "Like I said, trauma, confusion. The human mind protects itself in strange ways." The big man crouched down, bringing himself to Ethan's eye level. Up close, Ethan could see the scars that crisscrossed his face. A life of violence, but not cruelty. Survival, not malice. "What's your name, son?" the big man asked. Ethan Keller." "I'm Colt Brennan. You ran in here for a reason. Tell me why." Ethan looked at Owen, then back at Colt. "He's lying. They're the ones who took me. Took all of us." "All of us?" Colt asked. "6 kids. Me, Ivy, Damon, Ruby Sky Jet. They grabbed us off the school bus 3 days ago. Drugged us, tied us up in the old Kingsley factory. They want $50,000 for each of us. Said if our parents don't pay, they'll kill us one at a time." The bar went dead silent. Ethan could hear his own heartbeat. Owen's smile finally cracked. "The boy's delusional, probably drugged by his actual kidnappers. We need to get him to a hospital." Colt's eyes dropped to Ethan's wrists. The rope burns, deep, raw, bleeding, professionally tied. The kind of marks that came from days of restraint, not hours. Colt stood slowly. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, dangerous. "What happened to your wrist, kid?" "Rope," Ethan said. "They tied us up, all 6 of us, kept us on the 2nd floor of the factory. Owen called my dad, made me talk to him, told him to get the money ready." Owen took another step forward. "This is absurd. We're licensed contractors. We have credentials. This boy needs medical attention, not interrogation by a biker gang." The man with the salt and pepper beard, the sergeant at arms, pulled out his phone. He tapped a few times, then looked up. "What's your security company called again?" "Sentinel Security," Owen said. "Funny, I'm looking at the state licensing database right now. No Sentinel Security registered in Arizona. Want to try again?" Owen's jaw tightened. Trent and Ridley shifted uncomfortably. Another man stepped forward from the back of the bar. Younger, wiry, wearing glasses and a vest covered in tech-related patches. He held up his phone. "I monitor police scanners as a hobby, 24/7 feed. You know how many kidnapping reports have been filed in Ridgemont in the last week?" Nobody answered. "0, the tech guy said. "No Amber Alert, no APB, no missing children reports, nothing." Owen spread his hands. "That's because the family wanted discretion. Media attention can endanger the other children. It's standard protocol in these situations." Ethan's voice cut through. "My dad's a teacher. We don't have $50,000. None of our families do. That's why they took 6 of us, to spread the risk." Colt's hand moved to Ethan's shoulder again. Protective, possessive. Kid says there are 5 more children locked up. Where? There are no other children, Owen said. This boy is the only victim and we're taking him to safety now. Trent's hand drifted toward his hip, toward the gun holstered there. 40 bikers saw it. 40 bikers stood up in perfect unison. The sound was like an avalanche, chairs scraping, boots hitting floor, leather creaking. The entire bar transformed from a place of relaxation into a wall of muscle and menace in under 3 seconds. Colt didn't move. He just stood there, one hand on Ethan's shoulder, watching Owen with the patience of a man who'd stared down worse threats. You really want to do this? Colt asked. 3 of you, 40 of us. Math doesn't add up in your favor. Owen's face went red. You're obstructing a legal operation. I'll have every one of you arrested. Call the cops then, the tech guy said. I already did. Detective Sloan Barrett's on her way. 3-minute ETA. Owen's composure shattered. His hand went to his own holster. Nobody's calling anyone. Hand over the boy now. Trent and Ridley drew their weapons. 3 guns against 40 unarmed men. The bikers didn't back down. Some of them smiled, others cracked their knuckles. A few picked up pool cues, but none of them looked scared. Ethan felt Colt's hand squeeze his shoulder once, reassuring. Then Colt stepped forward, putting himself between Ethan and the guns. You pull those triggers, Colt said quietly, and you'll kill maybe 3 of us before we tear you apart. Your choice. Sirens wailed outside, getting closer. Owen's gun hand trembled. His eyes darted toward the door, calculating, weighing options. The sirens stopped right outside. The bar door opened. A woman walked in, mid-30s, athletic build, blonde hair pulled back tight, shield on her hip. Detective Sloan Barrett, Ridgemont PD. She surveyed the scene. 3 men with guns drawn, 40 bikers standing ready, 1 terrified kid behind the biggest man in the room. Everyone calm down, Sloan said. Her voice was steady, authoritative. Lower your weapons, now. Owen instantly shifted gears. His gun went back in its holster, his face smoothed into professional concern. Detective, thank God you're here. These men are obstructing a child recovery operation. I'm Owen Strand, Sentinel Security. We've been hired by this boy's parents to... I know who you claim to be, Sloan interrupted. I got the call on my way here. What I want to know is why a security contractor I've never heard of is running an operation in my jurisdiction without notifying local law enforcement. Time-sensitive situation. We were about to contact you. Sloan turned to Colt. Ironside. What's your side? Colt gestured to Ethan. Kid ran in here 10 minutes ago, barefoot, bleeding, terrified. Says these 3 kidnapped him and 5 other children. Says they're being held for ransom at the old Kingsley factory. Sloan crouched down in front of Ethan. Her eyes were sharp, but not unkind. Sweetheart, I need you to tell me the truth. Do you know this man? She pointed at Owen. Ethan nodded. His name's Owen Strand. He came to my house 2 summers ago. Had dinner with my dad. They were friends, Marines together. Owen's face went white. He grabbed me off the school bus 3 days ago, Ethan continued. Him and Trent and Ridley, they drugged us, took us to the factory, called our parents for ransom money. $50,000 each. There are 5 more kids still locked up. 2nd floor East Wing storage room. Ivy Martinez, Damon Wells, Ruby Patterson, Sky Morrison, Jet Holloway. Sloan stood slowly. Her hand moved to her service weapon. Officers detain all 3 men now. 4 uniformed cops rushed in from outside. They moved fast, professional weapons drawn. Owen's mask finally fell away completely. Rage twisted his features. He lunged toward Ethan. Colt moved faster. One massive hand caught Owen mid-lunge. Colt spun him around, slammed him face down onto the bar top, and pinned him there with one arm twisted behind his back. The whole thing took maybe 2 seconds. Owen screamed, struggled, couldn't move an inch. Trent raised his gun, 5 bikers were on him before he could aim. The weapon clattered to the floor. Trent went down under a pile of leather and muscle. Ridley dropped his gun immediately, raised his hands. I surrender. I surrender. Please. The cops moved in with handcuffs. Owen, Trent, and Ridley were restrained within 30 seconds. Sloan picked up Owen's dropped ID badge, studied it. Sentinel security, I'll run this, but I'm betting it's fake. She looked at Owen. You have the right to remain silent. You're making a mistake. Owen spat. Blood ran from his nose where Colt had slammed him into the bar. You have no idea what you're dealing with. I'm dealing with a child kidnapper, Sloan said. That's all I need to know. She turned to the tech guy. You said you monitor scanners. He nodded. Yeah, Finn Maverick. I also do some freelance IT work for the county. Want me to check something? Check dispatch records. Last 72 hours. Any kidnapping reports filed and deleted. Finn's fingers flew across his phone screen. His expression darkened. Detective, you're going to want to see this. He showed her the phone. Sloan's face went hard. How many? 14 reports in the last 8 months, all deleted within minutes of being filed. All flagged to the same dispatcher. Officer Garrett Sullivan. Night shift. Sloan keyed her radio. This is Barrett. I need units to pick up Officer Garrett Sullivan immediately. Consider him armed and dangerous. Suspicion of conspiracy to commit kidnapping. Static. Then a response. Copy that. Units en route. Ethan felt his legs give out. Colt caught him before he hit the floor. Lifted him like he weighed nothing. Carried him to a bar stool and set him down gently. You did good, kid, Colt said. Real good. Ethan looked up at him, at the scarred face and tired eyes and hands that had just crushed a grown man without breaking a sweat. Why did you help me? You don't even know me. Colt was quiet for a moment. Then he said, a long time ago, I had a little girl. She was 9. Someone took her. I trusted the police to find her. They tried, they really did. But by the time they cut through all the red tape and protocol and procedure, it was too late. I'm sorry, Ethan whispered. Her name was Lily. She'd be 17 now. Every time I see a kid in trouble, I see her. And I think, what if someone had just acted? What if someone had said, to hell with the rules and just done what was right? Colt placed a hand on Ethan's head. You ran into a bar full of criminals and outlaws because you knew we'd act. You were right. We will, every single time. Sloan walked over. Ethan, I need you to tell me everything. Where exactly are the other children? How many guards lay out of the building? Ethan's training kicked in. His dad's voice. In enemy territory, map every exit. 2nd floor, the Kingsley factory, East Wing. Storage room 2B, 1 guard outside the door. Tall guy, buzz cut smokes, Marlboro Reds. Coughs a lot. Another guard inside the room. Heavy guy eats constantly, carries a shotgun. Sloan blinked. You remember all that? My dad taught me. He said if you're ever in danger, pay attention to everything. It might save your life. Smart dad. Sloan pulled out her phone. I'm calling SWAT. We'll have those kids out within the hour. Colt stepped forward. Detective, with respect, we're coming too. Civilians can't participate in a tactical operation. We'll stay back. But when those kids come out, they're going to be scared, traumatized. They don't need to see more guns and uniforms. They need to see this one. He pointed at Ethan. They need to see hope. Sloan looked at Ethan, at his bloody feet and rope-burned wrists and dirt-streaked face, at the way he sat straighter when Colt spoke like he'd found something to believe in. Fine, Sloan said, but you follow my orders. All of you. No cowboy nonsense. Colt nodded. You have my word. Within minutes, the bar emptied. 20 motorcycles fired up in the parking lot. The sound was like thunder rolling across the desert. Ethan sat behind Colt on a bike so big it could have been a small car. Colt handed him a helmet. Hold on tight, kid. We're bringing your friends home. The convoy rolled out. 20 Harleys, 4 police cruisers, 1 SWAT van, all heading toward the old factory on the east side of town. Ethan wrapped his arms around Colt's waist and held on. The engine vibrated through his whole body. The wind tore at his clothes, but for the first time in 3 days, he wasn't afraid. He'd kept his promise to Ivy. He was coming back, and he wasn't coming alone. The convoy parked 3 blocks from the Kingsley factory. Engines cut. Silence rushed in to fill the void. Ethan slid off the back of Colt's bike, his legs shaky from adrenaline and exhaustion. The night air was cool against his skin, carrying the smell of desert sage and motor oil. Detective Sloan Barrett gathered everyone in a tight circle behind an abandoned warehouse. 2 SWAT officers in full tactical gear stood beside her, checking weapons and communication equipment. The 20 bikers formed a loose perimeter, their leather cuts creaking in the quiet. Sloan unrolled a blueprint of the factory across the hood of her cruiser. "This is 15 years old, but it's all we have. Ethan, can you mark where you were held?" Ethan stepped forward. His finger traced the layout until he found it. "Here, 2nd floor, east wing, this room." He tapped a square labeled Storage 2B. "The door is metal, deadbolt on the outside. 1 window, but it's got bars. Guards. Trent's usually outside. He smokes every 20 minutes. Ridley's inside with the kids. He has the shotgun." "Trent's in custody," Sloan said. "So we're down to 1 guard, maybe 2, if Owen had backup we don't know about." Finn Maverick, the tech guy, held up his tablet. "I hacked into what's left of the factory's security system. Most cameras are dead, but I got 2 working. 1 covers the east entrance. 1 covers the loading dock. Want me to loop the feeds?" Sloan nodded. "Do it. Give us a 10-minute window." Finn's fingers danced across the screen. "Done. Anyone watching those cameras will see empty hallways for the next 10 minutes. After that, the loop will be obvious." The SWAT commander, a man built like a refrigerator with a tactical vest that read, "Commander Hayes, step forward. My team goes in first, fast and quiet. We secure the guard, extract the children, and get them to safety. Everyone else stays here. Non-negotiable." Colt crossed his arms. "With respect, Commander, those kids have been traumatized for 3 days. They see men in masks and body armor coming through the door. They're going to think it's another kidnapping. They need a familiar face." "The boy can come," Hayes said, nodding at Ethan, "but not 20 bikers. This isn't a parade." "Just me then," Colt said. "I'll stay behind your team, but I'm going." Hayes looked at Sloan. She shrugged. "Ironside saved more lives than most cops I know. He goes, he follows orders." "Fine, gear up. We move in 5. Ethan felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned. His father stood there looking like he'd aged 10 years in 3 days. Beckett Keller's eyes were red-rimmed, his face unshaven, his clothes rumpled like he'd been sleeping in them. In his hand was a duffel bag that looked heavy. "Dad," Ethan whispered. Beckett dropped the bag and pulled Ethan into a hug so tight it hurt. "I thought I lost you. God, Ethan, I thought I lost you." "I'm okay, but the others aren't. We have to get them out." Beckett pulled back, gripping Ethan's shoulders. "You're not going back in there." "I have to. They're scared. They need to see me. They need to know I kept my promise." "Son, it's too dangerous. You taught me that courage isn't about safety. It's about doing what's right even when you're terrified." Ethan met his father's eyes. "I'm terrified, Dad, but I'm going." Beckett's jaw worked. He looked at Colt, who stood a few feet away, giving them space. "You'll protect him." "With my life," Colt said simply. Beckett closed his eyes, took a breath, opened them. "Then I'm coming too." "Mr. Keller," Sloan started. "That's my son. Those are my neighbor's kids. I'm not asking permission." Beckett picked up the duffel bag. "I brought $50,000. Cash. I sold my car, maxed out credit cards borrowed from people I shouldn't have. If money's what they want, let's end this without gunfire." Hayes shook his head. "Sir, this is a tactical operation. I'm a former Marine. I've seen combat. I know how to follow orders and stay out of the way. But I'm going in. Beckett's voice carried the weight of finality. You can arrest me after, but right now I'm going in. Sloan and Hayes exchanged a look. Hayes sighed. You stay behind me. You don't touch anything. You don't engage. Understood. Understood. The assault team assembled. 4 SWAT officers in the lead, weapons raised. Then Colt moving with surprising silence for a man his size. Then Beckett and Ethan together. Sloan brought up the rear with 2 more officers. They approached the factory through the east entrance, a rusted door hanging half off its hinges. Finn had killed the exterior lights, remotely plunging the approach into darkness. They moved by moonlight and muscle memory. Inside the factory was a graveyard of machinery, conveyor belts frozen mid-rotation, looms covered in dust and cobwebs. The smell of rust and mold was overwhelming. Water dripped somewhere in the darkness. A rat skittered across the floor. Ethan led them to the stairwell. The metal steps were loud, each footfall echoing. Hayes signaled for slower movement. They climbed 1 step at a time, weapons sweeping corners, eyes scanning for threats. Second floor, east wing. The hallway stretched ahead, lit by a single bulb hanging from frayed wiring. At the end, a metal door. Storage 2B. No guard outside. Hayes held up a fist. Everyone stopped. He pointed to 2 of his men. They moved forward, checking corners, clearing rooms. One held up 3 fingers. 3 doors down around the corner. Someone was there, Hayes signaled. The team flowed forward like water, silent, controlled. Around the corner, they found him. Not Ridley, a man Ethan didn't recognize. Tall, bald, Eastern European features. He was sitting in a folding chair smoking a cigarette, a rifle leaning against the wall beside him. He looked up, saw the SWAT team, reached for the rifle. Hayes fired first. Not a kill shot. The taser hit the man in the chest. He convulsed, fell from the chair twitched on the ground. One of the SWAT officers was on him in seconds, zip-tying his hands behind his back. No shots fired, no noise except the man's muffled groans. Hayes keyed his radio. Target 1 neutralized, moving to extract. They reached the door to storage. 2B. Hayes tested the handle. Locked from the outside, just like Ethan said. He pulled a breaching tool from his belt, a small hydraulic spreader, fitted it to the door frame, pumped the handle. The lock broke with a crack like a gunshot. Hayes threw the door open. Police hands where I can see them. Inside the room, Ridley stood in the center, shotgun raised, but his hands were shaking. His face was pale. Behind him, 5 children huddled against the far wall. Ivy, Damon, Ruby, Sky, Jet, all alive, all terrified. "Don't shoot," Ridley screamed. "Don't shoot, I'll put it down." "Do it slowly," Hayes barked. Ridley crouched, set the shotgun on the floor, kicked it away, raised his hands high. "I surrender. I didn't hurt them. I swear I didn't hurt them." 2 SWAT officers rushed in, secured by Ridley, dragged him out of the room. Ethan pushed past Hayes, ran into the room. Ivy, Damon, Ruby, Sky, Jet. 5 heads turned. 5 pairs of eyes went wide. "Ethan," Ivy's voice cracked. "You came back." "I promised, didn't I?" The room erupted. All 5 kids tried to stand at once, still bound by rope, stumbling over each other. They were crying, reaching for him, calling his name. Beckett was there with a knife cutting ropes. The moment Ivy's hands were free, she threw her arms around Ethan and sobbed. Then Damon, then Ruby, then Sky, then Jet, who was so small he almost disappeared in the group hug. "You came back," Ivy kept saying. "You came back." "Of course I did. I told you I would." Colt stood in the doorway watching. His face was unreadable, but his eyes were wet. Hayes keyed his radio. "All targets secured. 5 children recovered. All alive, requesting medical support." But when the SWAT officers tried to lead the kids out, they froze. Ivy grabbed Ethan's arm. "Don't let them take us. They're not taking you. They're helping you. They have guns, masks. They look like the men who took us. Ethan looked at Hayes. Hayes understood. He signaled his team to lower their weapons, remove their helmets, showed their faces. We're Ridgemont Police. You're safe now. We're taking you to your parents. But the kids still didn't move. 3 days of trauma didn't disappear because someone said it was okay. Colt stepped forward. He crouched down, making himself smaller, less threatening. When he spoke, his voice was soft, gentle, nothing like what you'd expect from a man his size. "Hey kids," he said, "I'm Colt. I know you're scared. I know you don't know who to trust. But Ethan trusted me. He ran into my bar and asked for help. And I promised him I'd get you home safe. So how about this? You follow Ethan, Ethan follows me, and I'll make sure nothing bad happens. Deal." Ivy looked at Ethan. "You trust him." "With my life." That was enough. Ivy nodded. The others followed her lead. They walked out of that room in a line. Ethan in front holding Ivy's hand. Ivy holding Damon's hand. Damon holding Ruby's. Ruby holding Sky's. Sky holding Jet's. And Colt at the back, a mountain of a man, making sure no one got left behind. They made it down the stairs through the factory floor out into the night air. Paramedics were waiting with blankets and water. Parents were held back behind a police line, but their voices carried, screaming names, crying, begging to see their children. Sloan gave the signal. The line opened. Ivy's mother ran forward first, a small woman with the same dark hair and eyes. She fell to her knees, pulled Ivy into her arms, and wailed like her heart was breaking and healing at the same time. Then Damon's father, Ruby's parents, Sky's grandmother, Jet's mom and dad. The reunions were loud, messy, beautiful. Ethan stood back watching, Beckett's hand on his shoulder. "You did this," Beckett said quietly. "You saved them all." "I just ran." "They saved themselves by being brave enough to wait." "That's what leaders do, son. They inspire others to be brave." Sloan approached. "Ethan, I need to ask you some questions, but it can wait until tomorrow. You've been through enough." "What about the man you found upstairs, the bald guy?" "We're running his prints now. He's not talking. But between him, Owen Trent Ridley, and Garrett Sullivan will get answers." Sloan paused. "You should know when we arrested Sullivan at the precinct, he broke down immediately. Confessed to everything. Owen paid him $5,000 per deleted report. 14 reports in 8 months. We're checking if there were other victims in other counties." Ethan felt sick. 14 families. "We'll find them all. Thanks to you, this ends tonight." The parents of the other children approached slowly. They looked at Ethan with expressions he couldn't quite read. Gratitude, awe, something deeper. Ruby's father spoke first. He was a mechanic, his hands still stained with grease, even now. "Son, I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to. We heard what you did. Escaped, ran for help, came back for them." The man's voice broke. "That's the bravest thing I've ever heard." Ivy's mother stepped forward. "We want to do something for you, for all of you." She looked at Colt and the bikers standing in a loose circle around the scene. "You didn't have to help, but you did, without question, without hesitation." Colt shook his head. "Ma'am, we don't need thanks. You're getting it anyway." She turned to the other parents. They nodded. "We're going to tell everyone what you did. The whole town will know. Iron Wolves aren't criminals. You're heroes." Wyatt Hawk, the sergeant-at-arms, stepped forward. "We appreciate that, but what we'd really like is to make sure this never happens again." "What do you mean?" Colt spoke up. "We've been talking on the ride over about starting something, a program. Guardian Watch, we're calling it. Any kid in danger anywhere in Ridgemont, they can come to us. No question asked. No judgment. We'll protect them until the authorities can take over." Finn added, "We'll put up signs around town. Safe haven locations. Businesses that agree to be part of the network. Kids see those signs, they know they can run there for help." Sloan crossed her arms. You know I can't officially endorse vigilante justice. Not vigilante, Colt said. Support. We're not replacing the police. We're filling the gaps, being the first responders while you mobilize the real help. Sloan considered this. Off the record, I think it's a good idea. On the record, I'll deny this conversation ever happened. Colt grinned. Fair enough. One of the paramedics called out, Detective, we need to transport these kids. Get them checked out at the hospital. The parents climbed into ambulances with their children. Ethan started to follow Beckett toward one, but Ivy called out from her ambulance. Ethan, wait. He turned. Ivy was sitting on the gurney wrapped in a blanket, her mother beside her. She looked so small, so fragile, but her eyes were clear. Thank you, she said, for keeping your promise. I told you I would. I know, but most people don't keep promises when it's hard. You did. The ambulance doors closed. The vehicles pulled away. Siren wailing into the night. Ethan watched them go, felt Beckett's hand on his shoulder again, felt Colt's massive presence beside him, felt the weight of the last 3 days settle into his bones. Come on, kid, Colt said. Let's get you home. They drove back to Throttle's bar in silence. The bikers peeled off one by one, heading to their own homes, their own lives. By the time they reached the bar, only Colt Wyatt, Finn Beckett, and Ethan remained. Inside the bar was exactly as they'd left it. Pool cues on the table, unfinished beers on the counter, the jukebox silent. Colt went behind the bar, poured a glass of water, handed it to Ethan. Drink, you're dehydrated. Ethan drank. The water tasted like the best thing he'd ever had. Beckett collapsed into a chair. He looked at the duffel bag of cash he'd brought, still sitting in the corner. $50,000 he'd scraped together through desperation. Useless now. I was ready to give them everything, he said quietly. Every penny, the house, my retirement, everything. That's what fathers do, Colt said. You don't have kids. Not anymore. Colt's voice was flat. But I remember what it was like. That feeling of knowing you'd burn the world down to keep them safe. Beckett looked up. Ethan mentioned you lost a daughter. Lily, 9 years old, taken by a man who worked at her school. Janitor. Background check missed a prior conviction in another state. By the time the police figured it out, mobilized, cut through the red tape, it was too late. Colt's hands tightened around his beer bottle. I waited for the system to work. It didn't. And I've lived with that every day since. I'm sorry. Don't be. Just teach your son what you've already been teaching him. Awareness, courage, how to survive when the world goes dark. He used every bit of it tonight. Beckett looked at Ethan. Where'd you learn to escape like that? I taught you observation skills, but I never taught you to break out of restraints. Ethan shrugged. I watched you work on the car, how you use leverage to loosen bolts. I figured rope works the same way. Find the weak point, apply pressure, be patient. And running 3 miles barefoot through the desert. You took me camping, said pain is temporary, but giving up is permanent. So I didn't give up. Beckett's eyes filled with tears. You're a better man than I was at your age. I'm not a man yet, Dad. I'm just a kid who got lucky. Luck had nothing to do with it. Wyatt spoke up from the corner. Kid, what you did tonight, most adults couldn't do. You stayed calm under pressure, made smart decisions, kept your promise to your friends. That's not luck. That's character. Finn nodded. And you trusted your instincts. You could have run to the police station, but something told you to come here instead. That instinct saved lives. Ethan looked around the bar, at these rough men with their scars and tattoos and leather cuts. Men society judge. Men people cross the street to avoid. Men who dropped everything to help a stranger. Why did you help me? Ethan asked. You didn't know me, didn't owe me anything. Colt set down his beer. You grabbed my vest and looked me in the eye. You didn't beg, didn't grovel. You just asked me not to let them take you. Like you knew I'd understand, and I did. Because someone once looked at me the same way. My daughter, the last time I saw her alive, she said, "Daddy, don't let the bad man take me." And I said, "I won't, baby, I promise." But I failed her. The bar was silent. So when you looked at me tonight, Colt continued, I heard her voice, and I made a choice. This time I wouldn't fail. None of us would. Ethan walked over to Colt. The big man looked down at him. Ethan did something that surprised everyone, including himself. He hugged Colt, wrapped his arms around that massive torso, and held on. Colt froze. Then slowly his arms came up. He hugged Ethan back, gentle, careful, like he was afraid he might break him. "Thank you," Ethan whispered. Colt didn't answer, couldn't answer, just held on. Beckett stood. "Colt, I owe you more than I can ever repay. You don't owe me anything. I do. And I want to help with this Guardian Watch thing. Whatever you need, I'll teach kids survival skills, self-defense, awareness, whatever keeps them safe." Wyatt extended his hand. "Welcome aboard, brother." They shook. Then Wyatt turned to Ethan. "You too, kid. You're one of us now. Honorary Iron Wolf." "I'm 10. Age is just a number. Heart is what matters. And you've got more heart than most men twice your size." Finn pulled out his phone. "I'm designing the safe haven signs tonight. Where should we place them first?" "Schools," Beckett said immediately. "Anywhere kids congregate. Parks, libraries, community centers." "We'll need volunteers," Wyatt added. "People willing to open their businesses as safe havens. Places kids can run if they're in trouble." Colt nodded. "I'll talk to the other MC presidents. Hells Angels, Mongols, Banditos. This shouldn't be just an Iron Wolves thing. This should be all of us, united front." "You think they'll agree?" Finn asked. "They will when they hear what happens tonight. Every biker I know has a code. You don't hurt women, you don't hurt kids. Anyone who breaks that code is an enemy. This makes it official." The conversation continued into the early morning hours. Plans were made, responsibilities assigned. Finn sketched the Safe Haven logo on a napkin, a wolf's head with a shield behind it, and the words, "Protected by Guardian Watch," in bold letters. Ethan sat on a bar stool listening. His eyes were heavy, his body ached, but he didn't want to leave. This felt important, like watching history being made. Around 3 a.m. Beckett stood. "Come on, son. We need to get you home. Get some sleep." Ethan slid off the stool. His feet touched the floor and he winced. The cuts from running barefoot had scabbed over but still hurt. Colt noticed. "Hold on." He disappeared into a back room, came back with a pair of boots. "These were Lily's. I kept them. Never had the heart to throw them out. They'll be too big but better than nothing." Ethan took the boots. They were pink, worn, loved. "Are you sure?" "She'd want someone to use them, especially someone like you." Ethan put them on. They were too big, but he laced them tight. They fit well enough. "Thank you." Colt walked them to the door. Outside, the desert night was cooling down. Stars filled the sky in impossible numbers. The kind of stars you only see far from city lights. "Ethan," Colt said, "one more thing. What you did tonight, it's going to change you. You are going to have nightmares. You're going to remember things you wish you could forget. That's normal. That's trauma. Don't try to tough it out alone. Talk to your dad. Talk to someone. Promise me." "I promise." "Good. And remember, you're not a victim. You're a survivor. There's a difference. Victims let the bad things define them. Survivors use the bad things to become stronger. You choose which one you want to be." "I'll be a survivor." "I know you will." Beckett and Ethan walked to their car. It was an old Honda, dented and faded. Beckett had driven it into the ground, getting money together for ransom. Now it barely started. As they pulled away from Throttle's bar, Ethan looked back. Colt stood in the doorway, silhouetted by the bar's neon lights. He raised one hand, a simple wave, a promise that he'd be there if Ethan ever needed him again. Ethan waved back. The drive home was quiet. Beckett kept one hand on the wheel, the other resting on Ethan's shoulder. An anchor, a reminder that they were both still here, still alive. Dad, Ethan said, Owen called you Beck. That's what Mom used to call you. Beckett's jaw tightened. Owen and I served together, Afghanistan. He saved my life during a firefight. Took a bullet meant for me. I thought I owed him everything. Stayed in touch after we got out. He met you a few times when you were younger. I trusted him. It's not your fault. Isn't it? I brought him into our lives. I let him see where we lived, what school you went to. I gave him the information he needed to hurt you. He made his own choices, Dad. You taught me that. People are responsible for their own actions. Beckett pulled into their driveway. The house was dark, empty, exactly as they'd left it 3 days ago when the world fell apart. Inside, Beckett turned on every light, checked every room. Old habits from the military. Secure the perimeter before you rest. Go take a shower, Beckett said. I'll make you something to eat. Ethan stood under hot water for 20 minutes. Watched the dirt and blood swirl down the drain. Scrubbed his skin until it was raw. But he couldn't wash away the feeling of rope on his wrists, the smell of that factory, the sound of Jet crying in the dark. When he came out, Beckett had made scrambled eggs and toast, simple, familiar. Home. They ate in silence. Then Beckett said, You don't have to go to school tomorrow. Take as much time as you need. I want to go. I wanted things to be normal. Things aren't going to be normal for a while, Ethan. You went through something terrible. It's okay to not be okay. I know, but sitting at home thinking about it won't help. I need to move forward. Beckett studied his son's face, saw something there he hadn't seen before. Maturity, gravity, the weight of experience that no 10-year-old should carry. Okay, but if you change your mind, just say the word. Ethan went to bed but didn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling, replaying everything. The bus, the factory, the escape, the bikers, the rescue, over and over like a movie stuck on loop. Around dawn, he finally drifted off and dreamed of Lily, a girl he'd never met, 9 years old, blonde hair, blue eyes like her father's. She was standing in a field of flowers smiling. She waved at him. Then she turned and walked into the light, and Ethan woke up. Beckett was sitting in a chair beside the bed. Bad dream? No, good one actually. Want to talk about it? Ethan shook his head. Some things were private, sacred. They got ready for school together. Beckett made breakfast again. Drove Ethan to Ridgemont Elementary. The parking lot was full of news vans, reporters shouting questions, cameras everywhere. You don't have to do this, Beckett said. I do. Ivy and the others will be here. They need to know they're not alone. Beckett walked Ethan to the front door. The principal, Mrs. Henderson, was waiting. She was a kind woman in her 60s with gray hair and reading glasses on a chain. Ethan, she said, we're so glad you're safe, all of you. Thank you, Mrs. Henderson. We've arranged for a counselor to be available. Anytime you need to talk, just ask. I will. Inside, the hallways were decorated with welcome back signs. Students had made posters. Teachers stood at classroom doors smiling, trying to project normalcy. Ethan walked to his classroom. 5th grade. Mrs. Patterson's class. Ruby's mom. The moment he stepped through the door, the room went silent. 25 kids stared at him. Then someone started clapping. Then everyone. A standing ovation for a 10-year-old boy who'd done what most adults couldn't. Ethan felt his face burn. He took a seat. Mrs. Patterson walked over, crouched beside his desk. Ruby told me what you did, she said quietly. Thank you for bringing my daughter home. I just ran for help. You did more than that. You gave them hope. You kept a promise. That's everything. The school day passed in a blur. Ethan couldn't focus on math or reading. His mind kept drifting back to the factory, to Colt's bar, to the feel of Ivy's hand in his as they walked to safety. At lunch, Ivy found him. She sat down across from him, her tray untouched. "Hey," she said. "Hey, nightmares. Yeah, you. Every time I close my eyes, I'm back in that room." They sat in silence. Two kids who'd seen too much, carried too much. "Ethan," Ivy said, "what you said in the factory about coming back. I didn't believe you. I thought you were just saying it to make me feel better." "I meant it. I know that now. You're the bravest person I've ever met." "I'm not brave. I was terrified the whole time. That's what makes it brave. Being scared and doing it anyway." The bell rang. They went back to class. After school, Beckett was waiting in the parking lot, but he wasn't alone. Colt stood beside him. The contrast was almost comical. Beckett, average height, slender build. Colt, a mountain of muscle and leather. "Colt wanted to check on you," Beckett explained. Ethan walked over. "I'm okay." "You sure first day back can be rough?" It was weird. Everyone kept staring, but Ivy was there. That helped. Colt nodded. "Good. You two went through this together. You'll heal together, too." He pulled something from his pocket, a leather patch, the Iron Wolves logo. Beneath it, embroidered in gold thread, "Honorary Member and Guardian Watch." "This is for you," Colt said. "You've earned it." Ethan took the patch. It was heavy, real. "What do I do with it?" "Whatever you want. Sew it on a jacket, frame it. Keep it as a reminder that you're part of something bigger now. Your pack." "Thank you." Colt ruffled Ethan's hair, a gesture so normal, so fatherly, it made Ethan's throat tight. "See you around, kid." He walked away, climbed onto his Harley, and rode off. The engine's roar echoed through the parking lot long after he disappeared. That night, Beckett helped Ethan sew the patch onto his favorite jacket, a blue denim one his mom had bought him before she passed away 2 years ago. Now it carried the Iron Wolves emblem, a symbol of survival and brotherhood. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. Owen, Strand, Trent, and Ridley were formally charged with 6 counts of kidnapping, extortion, and child endangerment. Garrett Sullivan faced additional charges for obstruction of justice and conspiracy. The bald man found at the factory was identified as Alexei Volkov, an enforcer for a criminal organization. He refused to cooperate, but his fingerprints connected him to 3 other kidnapping cases in Nevada and California. The trial was set for 6 months out. Ethan would have to testify. So would Ivy, Damon, Ruby Sky, and Jet. The prosecutor promised to make it as easy as possible, but there was no easy way to relive trauma in front of a courtroom. In the meantime, Guardian Watch took shape. Finn designed professional-looking signs. Local businesses signed up. The Iron Wolves partnered with other motorcycle clubs. Even rival gangs put aside differences for this, because protecting children wasn't a territory dispute. It was universal law. Within a month, 15 safe haven locations were established across Ridgemont. Gas stations, diners, barbershops, anywhere a kid could run if they were in trouble. Sloan Barrett, despite her official reservations, quietly supported the program. She made sure patrol officers knew about Guardian Watch and didn't interfere unless absolutely necessary. 3 months after the rescue, the first test came. A 13-year-old girl named Kira Westfield was being stalked by an online predator. He'd been grooming her for weeks, finally convinced her to meet in person. When she arrived at the meeting spot and saw he was a 40-year-old man instead of the 16-year-old boy from the photo she ran, she saw a safe haven sign at a coffee shop 2 blocks away. Ran inside. The owner called the Guardian Watch hotline Finn had set up. Within minutes, 4 bikers arrived. They stayed with Kira until police came. The predator was arrested 3 hours later, trying to flee the state. Kira's parents came to Throttle's bar to thank the bikers in person. They brought their daughter. She stood in front of Colt, this tiny girl with braces and a backpack, and said, "You saved my life." Colt crouched down. "You saved your own life by running to safety. We just helped." "Can I join Guardian Watch? I want to help other kids." "When you're older, For now, focus on healing. But yeah, one day you'll be part of this. News of Guardian Watch spread. Other towns wanted to start similar programs. Colt and Wyatt traveled to Phoenix, Tucson, Flagstaff, giving talks, sharing strategies. What started as one bar in one small town became a movement. Ethan watched it all unfold. He went to school, did his homework, played with friends, tried to be a normal kid, but once a month Beckett drove him to Throttle's bar. Ethan would walk in wearing his jacket with the patch. The bikers would greet him like family. He'd drink orange soda, play, pool, listen to stories. They never treated him like a victim, never pitied him. They treated him like a warrior who'd survived battle. And slowly, that's how Ethan started to see himself. 6 months after the kidnapping, the trial began. Ethan testified on day 3. He sat in the witness box, looked at Owen Strand across the courtroom, and told the truth. Every detail, every moment, every fear. Owen's lawyer tried to paint Ethan as confused, traumatized, unreliable, but Ethan didn't waver. He'd mapped that factory in his mind. He knew every detail, and the jury believed him. All 4 defendants were convicted. Owen received 28 years, Ridley 12, reduced because he cooperated. Trent, 18. Garrett Sullivan, the dispatcher, got 15 for his role in the conspiracy. Alexei Volkov was convicted in federal court on multiple charges and sentenced to 40 years. Justice in its slow and imperfect way was served. After the verdict, Ethan visited Owen one last time. The prison allowed it because Beckett requested it and the warden knew the story. They sat across from each other in a visitation room. Owen in an orange jumpsuit, Ethan in his jacket with the Iron Wolves patch. "Why did you come?" Owen asked. "My dad said you were a hero once in the war. I wanted to know what happened. How do you go from saving lives to destroying them?" Owen was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I lost myself. After the war, I couldn't adjust. Couldn't hold a brow. Started gambling. Debts piled up. I made one bad choice, then another, then another. Before I knew it, I was someone I didn't recognize." Did you ever think about asking for help? Every day, but pride got in the way. Shame. I thought I could fix it myself. I was wrong. My dad taught me that asking for help isn't weakness. It's wisdom. Your dad's right. He always was. Smarter than me, better than me. Owen's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry, Ethan. I know it doesn't change anything, but I am. I forgive you." Owen looked up shocked. "What? I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because holding on to hate would make me like you, and I don't want to be like you." Ethan stood, walked to the door, paused. "Mr. Strand, you've got a long time in here. Use it to become the man you used to be, the hero my dad remembers. It's not too late." He left, never looked back. Outside, Beckett was waiting. "You okay?" "Yeah, I said what I needed to say." They drove home. Life continued. Ethan grew, learned, healed. The nightmares faded but never disappeared completely. Some scars run too deep. But he had his family, he had Guardian Watch, he had a purpose, and that was enough. 3 years passed like water through cupped hands. Ethan Keller turned 13 in the spring, and Ridgemont changed around him in ways both visible and invisible. The safe haven signs multiplied from 15 to 47. The Guardian Watch hotline, initially answered by Finn on his personal cell phone, became a full operation, with volunteers rotating shifts. Crime statistics told a story the local newspaper couldn't ignore. Child abductions dropped to 0. Domestic violence calls decreased by 38%. Runaway reports fell by half. Detective Sloan Barrett stood at a town hall meeting one Thursday evening and presented the data to a room full of skeptical city council members. She pointed to a graph showing the correlation between Guardian Watch's expansion and the drop in violent crime. "I can't officially endorse a civilian patrol program," she said, her voice carrying to the back of the room. "But I can tell you that since the Iron Wolves and their partners started this initiative, my officers spend less time responding to crimes against children and more time on prevention. The numbers speak for themselves. Councilman Robert Marsh, a man in his 70s who'd opposed Guardian Watch from the beginning, stood up. Detective, these are motorcycle gangs, criminals. You're asking us to trust our children's safety to outlaws. Colt Brennan rose from his seat in the back. He wore his iron wolves cut over a clean black shirt. His presence commanded attention without him saying a word. When he spoke, his voice was calm, measured. Councilman Marsh, with respect, not one member of Guardian Watch has a conviction for crimes against children. Many of us have records. I won't deny that. Bar fights, disorderly conduct, things we're not proud of. But we have a code. Women and children are off limits. Anyone who breaks that code answers to all of us. That's vigilante justice, Marsh shot back. No, sir. It's accountability. We don't punish. We protect and then hand perpetrators to Detective Barrett and her team. Check the records. Every intervention we've made has resulted in legal arrests and convictions. We're not replacing law enforcement. We're supporting it. The room murmured. Marsh sat down unsatisfied but unable to argue with the data. After the meeting, Ethan waited outside for his father. Beckett had spoken during the public comment period about Guardian Watch's educational programs. He now taught monthly self-defense and awareness classes at the community center, free for any child whose parents signed a waiver. Colt walked out, saw Ethan leaning against his father's car, and smiled. Getting tall, kid. What are you now, 5'6", 5'7"? Ethan corrected. Grew 2 inches since January. Keep it up, and you'll be able to look me in the eye in a few years. That's a long way up. They stood in comfortable silence. 3 years of monthly visits to Throttle's bar had built something between them. Not quite father and son, not quite mentor and student. Something else. Something earned. You still having the dreams? Colt asked. Ethan nodded. Not as much. Maybe once a month now. I wake up and I'm back in that room, but it doesn't scare me like it used to. That's growth. Trauma doesn't disappear. You just get better at carrying it. Beckett emerged from the building shaking hands with council members who'd approached him after the meeting. He waved at Ethan and Colt, finishing his conversations before walking over. Went well, I think, Beckett said. Even Marsh couldn't argue with a 40% drop in crime. He'll find something, Colt replied. Men like him always do. They trust systems more than people. Can you blame them? Systems have rules. People are unpredictable. Systems also have gaps. We fill them. Colt checked his watch. I should get going. Chapter meeting tonight. We're voting on expanding Guardian Watch to Prescott Valley. Their MC reached out last week. How many clubs are involved now? Beckett asked. 17 across Arizona, 3 in Nevada, 2 in New Mexico. Word spreads fast when something works. Ethan spoke up. Colt, can I come to Throttle's this weekend? I want to help with the new training materials. Course you can. Bring that big brain of yours. Finn's designing an app for the Safe Haven network. Could use your input. An app? Yeah, kids can pull it up, see the nearest Safe Haven location with directions. Also has a panic button that alerts Guardian Watch and police simultaneously. Finn says the technology's ready. We just need to make sure it's user-friendly. I can help with that. Colt clapped Ethan on the shoulder. See you Saturday, then. He walked to his Harley, a newer model than the one from 3 years ago, but just as loud. The engine roared to life, and he rode into the desert night, taillight fading like a distant star. Saturday came with clear skies and temperatures already climbing toward 90 by noon. Ethan rode his bicycle to Throttle's bar, the 8-mile journey no longer daunting. His legs were stronger now. His endurance built from hours of training with his father and the bikers who'd taken an interest in his development. The bar looked the same as always. Motorcycles lined up like chrome soldiers, neon signs buzzing in the windows, the smell of motor oil and leather and tobacco greeting him before he even opened the door. Inside, the usual crowd filled the space. Wyatt sat at the bar nursing a beer and arguing with a younger biker about carburetor settings. Finn hunched over his laptop at a corner table, headphones on fingers flying across the keyboard. A pool game raged in the back, money on the table voices raised in good-natured competition. Colt stood behind the bar wiping down glasses. He looked up when Ethan entered, smiled, reached under the counter, and pulled out a bottle of orange soda. Always orange soda, never anything else. It had become their ritual. Right on time, Colt said, sliding the bottle across the bar. Finn's been waiting for you. Ethan popped the cap, took a long drink, and walked to Finn's table. The tech specialist looked up, pulled off his headphones, and gestured to the empty chair. Keller, my man, check this out. Finn spun his laptop around. On the screen was a clean, simple interface. A map of Ridgemont with 47 blue pins marking safe haven locations. At the bottom, a red button labeled Emergency Alert. It's beautiful, Ethan said. Functional, too. See this? Finn tapped a pin. A window popped up with the business name, address, hours of operation, and a photo of the entrance. Kid doesn't have to guess if a place is open. They can see it before they run there. What about the panic button? Finn clicked it. The screen changed to a confirmation message. Are you in immediate danger? Two buttons appeared. Yes and no. Hit yes, and it sends your GPS location to every Guardian Watch member within 5 miles plus the police dispatcher. Also activates your phone's camera and microphone starts recording automatically. Evidence in real time. That's incredible. It's necessary. We've had 3 cases this year where kids called the hotline but couldn't explain where they were. GPS eliminates that problem. Wyatt walked over, beer in hand. How's it looking? Ready for beta testing, Finn said. I need volunteers. Kids willing to download it, test the interface, make sure it's intuitive. Ethan nodded. I'll ask at school. Ivy, Damon, Ruby, Sky, Jet. They'll all help. They understand why this matters. How are they doing? Wyatt asked. The other kids from the factory. Better. We all are. Ruby's in therapy, helps her with the nightmares. Damon started boxing, says hitting things makes him feel in control. Ivy joined the debate team. Sky plays soccer. Jet's still quiet, but he smiles more now. And you, well, I'm here, aren't I, helping? That's my therapy. Colt joined them carrying a worn leather journal. He set it on the table, flipped it open. Inside were handwritten entries, dates, names, outcomes, every Guardian Watch intervention meticulously documented. 14 cases so far this year, Colt said. Kira Westfield was our first. Since then, we've had 2 domestic violence situations. 1 attempted abduction at a park, 3 runaways. We helped reunite with safe family members. 1 online predator sting, coordinated with police, and 6 cases of kids needing temporary refuge from unsafe home environments until social services could intervene. He turned the page. More names, more stories. Not all of them end happy. We can't save everyone from everything. But we show up every single time. Ethan read the entries, recognized some names from school. Others were unfamiliar. Each one represented a life altered, a trajectory changed. There's something I want to propose, Ethan said. A youth division of Guardian Watch. The 3 men looked at him. Kids helping kids, Ethan continued. We know things adults don't. We see warning signs in our friends that parents and teachers miss. What if we train students to recognize those signs and know how to help? Finn leaned back. Like peer counselors. Sort of, but more action-oriented. If I see a friend being bullied or abused or groomed online, I should know what to do. Who to call, how to keep them safe until adults can step in. Wyatt scratched his beard. That's a lot of responsibility for kids. We already carry the responsibility. We just don't have the tools or support. Colt studied Ethan for a long moment. You've been thinking about this for a while. Since the trial, I testified against Owen, and it was terrifying. But I had you guys behind me. I had my dad. I had Detective Barrett explaining every step. Most kids don't have that. They face scary situations alone, because they don't know it's okay to ask for help. So we teach them, Colt said. Normalize asking for help. Make it the brave thing instead of the shameful thing. Exactly. Finn started typing. I can build a training module into the app. Videos, scenarios, quizzes. Make it like a game so kids actually engage with it. Wyatt nodded slowly. We'd need to partner with schools, get permission from the district. Won't be easy. Beckett can help with that, Colt said. He's got relationships with the school board. And after tonight's town hall, we've got momentum, data on our side. They spent the next 3 hours mapping out a proposal. Ethan contributed ideas from a student's perspective. Finn designed the technical framework. Wyatt and Colt handled the political strategy. By the time the sun set, they had a rough outline for Guardian Watch Youth Initiative. We present this to the full chapter next week, Colt said. Get everyone's input. Then we approach the school board. Ethan finished his third orange soda. Thank you for listening, for taking this seriously. Kid, you've earned the right to be heard. You're not just some child we helped once. You're part of this, part of us. The bar door opened. A woman walked in mid-20s carrying a little girl who couldn't have been more than 5. The woman's face was bruised, split lip, swollen eye. The girl clung to her mother, silent and wide-eyed. The bar went quiet. Colt stood immediately, walked over. Ma'am, are you safe right now? The woman's voice shook. I saw the sign outside. Safe haven. I didn't know where else to go. My husband, he's been drinking, and he got angry, and I grabbed Emma and ran. I don't have anywhere to go. You came to the right place. Colt gestured to Wyatt. Call Detective Barrett. Tell her we have a domestic violence situation victim needs immediate assistance. Wyatt was already on his phone. Colt led the woman to a booth away from the main crowd. I'm Colt. What's your name? Sarah. Sarah Mitchell. Sarah, you and Emma are safe here. No one's going to hurt you. We're going to get you help. Finn brought over water and a juice box for the little girl. Emma took it with tiny hands, didn't make a sound. Ethan watched from across the room. This was Guardian Watch in action. Not dramatic rescues or police raids. Just a safe place for someone with nowhere else to turn. Detective Barrett arrived within 15 minutes. She sat with Sarah, took her statement, photographed her injuries. 2 officers went to the Mitchell house and arrested Sarah's husband without incident. Sarah and Emma were taken to a women's shelter with 24-hour security. After they left, the bar slowly returned to normal. Pool games resumed, conversations restarted. But the energy had shifted. Everyone had been reminded why Guardian Watch existed. Colt returned to Ethan's table. You see that? Yeah. That's what we do, every day. Doesn't always make the news, doesn't always have a dramatic ending, but it matters. She knew to come here because of the sign, because of you. You're the reason we started this. You're the reason that little girl has a safe place to sleep tonight. Ethan felt the weight of that, not burden, responsibility. There was a difference. He rode home as twilight turned to night, his bicycle light cutting through darkness. When he arrived, Beckett was waiting on the porch reading a book under the yellow glow of the porch light. Good day, Beckett asked. Productive. We're starting a youth division of Guardian Watch. I'll tell you about it over dinner. They ate together, talking through the proposal. Beckett listened carefully, asked good questions, offered suggestions. By the end of the meal, they had refined the idea into something presentable. I'm proud of you, Beckett said as they cleared the dishes. Most 13-year-olds are worried about video games and fitting in. You're trying to change the world. I'm not trying to change the world, just our corner of it. That's how all change starts. Small corners that grow into something bigger. The following week, Ethan presented the Guardian Watch Youth Initiative to the Full Iron Wolves chapter. 30 bikers packed into Throttle's back room, listening as a 13-year-old outlined a program to train students in recognizing and responding to danger. When he finished, the room was silent. Then Wyatt stood. I vote yes. All in favor. 30 hands went up. Unanimous. Motion carries, Colt said. Ethan Keller, you're officially the founder and director of Guardian Watch Youth Initiative. Congratulations. Applause filled the room. Ethan felt his face burn with pride and embarrassment. The school board meeting was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Beckett arranged for Ethan to stop back during the public comment period. They practiced his presentation a dozen times, refining the message, anticipating objections. When the night arrived, the boardroom was packed. Parents, teachers, students, news cameras in the back. The Guardian Watch program had become too big to ignore. Ethan walked to the podium wearing khakis and a button-down shirt, his Iron Wolves patch visible on his jacket draped over the chair behind him. He adjusted the microphone, looked at the 5 board members, and began. My name is Ethan Keller. 3 years ago, I was kidnapped along with 5 other students from Ridgemont Elementary. We were held for ransom in the old Kingsley factory for 3 days before I escaped and found help. He paused. Let that sink in. The men who helped me weren't police officers. They weren't teachers or counselors or anyone you'd traditionally think of as heroes. They were bikers, the Iron Wolves Motorcycle Club, men with criminal records and rough reputations, men this community often fears. Another pause. But when I ran into their bar bleeding and barefoot and terrified, they didn't hesitate. They stood between me and my kidnappers. They helped police rescue my friends. And then they asked themselves a question. How do we make sure no other child has to go through what Ethan went through? Ethan clicked a remote. A presentation appeared on the screen behind him. Statistics, graphs, photos of safe haven signs. Guardian Watch started 3 years ago. In that time, child abductions in Ridgemont have dropped to 0. Violent crimes against minors are down 40%. We've intervened in 23 cases where children were in immediate danger. Every intervention resulted in legal arrests and convictions. We haven't replaced law enforcement. We've supported it. He clicked again. Images of students appeared. Diverse faces, different ages. But we can do more. Most abuse happens where adults can't see. In schools, online, behind closed doors, kids see these warning signs in their friends. They know who's being hurt, but they don't know how to help. They don't know it's okay to speak up. Click. The Guardian Watch Youth Initiative logo appeared. I'm proposing a program to train students in recognizing signs of abuse, bullying, grooming, and other dangers. Not to make kids into investigators, but to empower them to seek help for themselves and their friends. To normalize asking for support instead of suffering in silence. He outlined the program structure, monthly assemblies, an optional app with resources and emergency contacts, partnerships with counselors and social services, age-appropriate materials developed with input from child psychologists. This isn't about turning children into vigilantes. It's about giving them tools and permission to protect each other. Because the truth is, kids already try to help their friends. They just do it alone without guidance and often unsuccessfully. Ethan looked directly at the board members. 3 years ago, I had to make an impossible choice. Run to the police station and hope they believed me and acted fast enough. Or run to a bar full of strangers and pray they'd help. I chose the bar because I knew instinctively that they would act without hesitation. That choice saved 5 lives, his voice strengthened. But children shouldn't have to make that choice. They should know without doubt that when they cry for help, someone will answer. Guardian Watch Youth Initiative is how we make that promise real. He stepped back from the podium. Thank you for your time. I'll answer any questions. The boardroom erupted. Some applause, some shouting. The board president, Dr. Ellen Vasquez, banged her gavel. Order, please, Mr. Keller. Thank you for that presentation. The board will take your proposal under advisement and vote at next month's meeting. Ethan returned to his seat. Beckett squeezed his shoulder. Colt, sitting 2 rows back, gave him a subtle nod. The meeting continued for another hour. Public comments flew from both sides. Parents supporting the program, others opposing it, teachers split down the middle. But the conversation had shifted. Guardian Watch was no longer a fringe biker initiative. It was a community debate. 4 weeks later, the school board voted, 3 in favor, 2 opposed. Guardian Watch Youth Initiative was approved as a pilot program for 1 academic year. Implementation began that fall. Beckett took a leave of absence from teaching to coordinate with schools. Finn finished the app and launched it on both iOS and Android. Psychologists from the university helped develop age-appropriate curriculum. Detective Barrett recorded video testimonials about when and how to contact police. Ethan became the face of the program. Local news interviewed him. He spoke at assemblies across the district. He met with student groups, answered questions, shared his story. Some kids idolized him. Others resented the attention. A few thought he was exploiting trauma for fame. Ethan ignored the criticism and focused on the work. By winter, 1,200 students had downloaded the app. 46 had used it to report concerns about friends or themselves. Of those, 39 resulted in successful interventions. Lives were changed. Some were saved. The data spoke louder than any critic. That December, the City Council voted to officially recognize Guardian Watch as a community partner. They allocated funding for expansion, established oversight protocols, formalized the relationship between the program and law enforcement. Ridgemont became a model. Journalists from Phoenix, Albuquerque, and Las Vegas visited to document the program. A documentary crew spent 3 months filming. The story spread beyond Arizona. Through it all, Ethan maintained his monthly visits to Throttle's bar. He'd arrive on his bicycle walk-in wearing his jacket with the patch, order orange soda from Colt, and sit with whoever was around. Sometimes they talked about Guardian Watch business. Other times they just played pool or watched football or told stories. Ethan learned about these men's lives, their struggles with addiction, poverty, trauma, their paths to redemption through brotherhood and service. He learned that heroism wasn't perfection. It was choosing to be better than you were yesterday. On a cold Saturday in January, 4 years after the kidnapping, Ethan arrived at Throttle's to find the bar transformed. Streamers hung from the ceiling. A banner read, "Happy Birthday, Ethan." 40 bikers crowded the space along with Ivy, Damon, Ruby, Sky, and Jet, their families, Detective Barrett, and half the Ridgemont police force. Ethan stood in the doorway, stunned. Colt walked over, grinning. 13 to 14 is a big transition. Figured it deserved celebrating. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything, just enjoy it. The party lasted hours. There was cake, far too much food, terrible karaoke from Wyatt, and a presentation of gifts. Beckett gave Ethan a leather jacket, real motorcycle leather, with the Iron Wolves patch professionally sewn onto the back. Not the honorary member patch from before, a full patch, the same one worn by every biker in the room, Colt explained. Chapter voted last week, unanimous. You're not honorary anymore. You're one of us, full member. When you turn 18, you can ride with us officially. Until then, this is a promise. Your pack. Ethan put on the jacket. It fit perfectly. The leather creaked as he moved, smelled like possibility and belonging. Thank you, he managed, all of you, for everything. Ruby approached carrying something wrapped in newspaper. This is from all of us, the factory kids. Ethan unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a wooden frame. Behind the glass, 6 handprints in different colors of paint. Beneath each handprint, a name. Ethan, Ivy, Damon, Ruby, Sky, Jet. Below the handprints, a single sentence burned into the wood. We survived together. We made it in art class, Ivy explained. Wanted you to have something to remember that we all got through it. That we're okay now because you were brave enough to run for help. Ethan's throat tightened. He hugged each of them. His first family forged in darkness, sustained by hope. Later, as the party wound down and people filtered out, Ethan found himself alone with Colt at the bar. The big man polished glasses in comfortable silence. Colt, can I ask you something? Always. Do you still think about Lily? Every day, I mean. Colt set down the glass. Every single day. She'd be 20 now, in college probably. Studying something brilliant, maybe art. She loved to draw. Does it get easier? No, but you get stronger. The weight doesn't change. You just learn to carry it better. Ethan traced patterns in the condensation on his soda bottle. I still have nightmares, not as often, but they come back sometimes. I'm in that factory and I can't find the window, can't escape, can't save anyone. That's your mind processing trauma. It's normal. How do you process it? Colt gestured around the bar. This, guardian watch, helping others. Every kid we save, I see Lily. I imagine she's out there somewhere watching proud that her dad finally got it right. You think she'd be proud? I think she'd love you. You remind me of her. Brave, stubborn, heart bigger than common sense. They sat in silence. Outside engines roared as bikers departed. Families loaded into cars. The party dissolved into night. Beckett appeared, keys in hand. Ready to go, son. Ethan stood pulled on his new jacket. Colt walked them to the door. 14's a big year, Colt said. You'll start making decisions about who you want to be, what kind of man you're becoming. Just remember you don't have to figure it out alone. You've got people. Use them. I will. Good. See you next month. Same time. Same orange soda. Wouldn't dream of changing it. The drive home was quiet. Ethan stared out the window at the desert landscape sliding past. Ridgemont looked different than it had 4 years ago. More safe haven signs, more awareness, more hope. Dad, Ethan said, do you think what we're doing actual life matters, or are we just putting band-aids on a broken system? Beckett considered this. Both maybe. The system is broken. It's too slow, too bureaucratic, too underfunded. Guardian Watch doesn't fix that, but it catches people when the system fails, and that matters. Every single life saved matters. What if we can't save everyone? We can't. That's the hard truth, but we save who we can, help who we can, and we trust that others are doing the same in places we can't reach. They pulled into the driveway. Inside the house was warm and lit. Home. Ethan hung his new jacket by the door, careful not to wrinkle the patch. He ran his fingers over the embroidered wolf's head. Full member. Pack. Sleep came easy that night. For once, no nightmares. Just dreams of open roads and the rumble of engines and 40 voices raised in laughter. Spring arrived with wild flowers carpeting the desert. The Guardian Watch Youth Initiative completed its pilot year. The data was undeniable. Student reports of bullying increased by 60%, not because bullying had risen, but because students finally felt safe reporting it. Early intervention in abuse cases jumped 40%. Teenage suicide attempts in Ridgemont dropped to the lowest level in 20 years. The school board voted to make the program permanent and expand it to middle schools. Ethan stood before another packed boardroom and thanked everyone who'd supported the initiative. He looked different than he had a year ago. Taller, voice deeper, more confident. But the core remained. A boy who'd survived the unthinkable and decided survival wasn't enough. He wanted prevention, protection, change. That summer, the city broke ground on a new community center built on the site of the old Kingsley factory. The rusted building had been demolished 2 years earlier, but the land sat empty. Now it would house youth programs, counseling services, and the headquarters for Guardian Watch. At the groundbreaking ceremony, a bronze plaque was unveiled. Ethan read the inscription aloud. Keller Community Center, built on the site where 6 children survived captivity through courage, hope, and the promise of rescue, dedicated to ensuring no child faces darkness alone, protected by Guardian Watch. His name, his family's name, permanent. Cameras flashed, reporters asked questions, politicians gave speeches, but Ethan's eyes found Colt in the crowd. The big man stood with his club leather cuts gleaming in the sunlight. He met Ethan's gaze and nodded once. Simple, profound. We did this. Together. Construction took 8 months. The community center opened in March just before Ethan's 15th birthday. It was beautiful. Bright spaces, modern equipment, counseling rooms with comfortable chairs and soft lighting, a computer lab with Finn's app pre-installed on every machine, a training room where Beckett taught self-defense classes every weekend. And in the main lobby, a mural. Painted by local artists and students, it depicted a wolf standing watch over children playing in a field. The wolf was massive, protective, fierce. The children were diverse, joyful, safe. Beneath the mural, mounted in a glass case, was Ethan's original drawing from 4 years ago, the one he'd made after the rescue. 40 bikers standing like giants, 6 small children in front. The drawing that had hung above the bar at Throttles since that night. Colt had donated it to the center, his most prized possession, the image that reminded him why Guardian Watch existed. "You sure about this?" Ethan had asked when Colt first suggested it. "It belongs here where kids can see it, where they can understand that asking for help isn't weakness. It's the bravest thing you can do." The center thrived. Hundreds of kids visited every week. Some came for programs. Others just needed a safe place to exist. The Guardian Watch volunteers rotated shifts, always present, always watching. Ethan volunteered every Tuesday and Thursday after school. He helped with homework, played basketball in the gym, listened when kids needed to talk. He didn't advertise his story, but word spread. Kids knew who he was, what he'd survived. Some found courage in that. Others found hope. One Thursday afternoon, a boy no older than 10 walked into the center. He was small, skinny, with a black eye poorly concealed under a baseball cap. He sat in the lobby for 20 minutes, not engaging with anyone, just watching. Ethan noticed. He grabbed 2 juice boxes from the kitchen, walked over and sat down. "Hey, I'm Ethan." The boy didn't answer. "You thirsty?" Ethan offered a juice box. The boy took it slowly. "Thanks." They sat in silence. Ethan didn't push, just existed beside this scared kid, providing presence without pressure. Finally, the boy spoke. "Is it true you were kidnapped?" "Yeah, 4 years ago." "What was it like?" "Scary. I thought I might die. Thought I'd never see my dad again." "How'd you escape?" "I paid attention, learned the guards' routines, found a weak point, and when the moment came, I acted." "Were you scared?" "Terrified, but I did it anyway." The boy pulled off his cap. The black eye was worse than Ethan had thought, swelling, bruising down to his cheekbone. "My stepdad hits me," the boy whispered. "When he drinks, Mom tells me to stay quiet, says it'll get worse if I tell anyone." Ethan's chest tightened. He kept his voice calm. "What's your name?" "Marcus." "Marcus, I'm glad you're here. That took a lot of courage. I'm not brave like you." "You're braver. I had to get kidnapped before I asked for help. You walked in here on your own. That's incredible." Marcus's eyes filled with tears. "Will they take me away from my mom?" "I don't know, but I know they'll keep you safe. Both of you if your mom wants help too. She loves him. She won't leave. Then we'll help you. Find a way to protect you, even if she stays." Ethan signaled to one of the adult volunteers, a counselor named Patricia, who specialized in domestic violence cases. She approached, gently introduced herself to Marcus, and within the hour, a safety plan was in place. Marcus's mother was contacted. Initially defensive, she broke down when she saw her son's face. She admitted the abuse had escalated, admitted she was afraid, admitted she didn't know how to leave. Patricia connected her with resources, a women's shelter, legal aid, counseling. The stepdad was arrested that evening. Marcus and his mother stayed at the shelter. 2 weeks later, Marcus returned to the center with his mom. They were living in transitional housing. Starting over, healing. Marcus found Ethan in the gym. "Thank you for listening, for helping. You helped yourself by walking through that door. I was so scared." Being scared and doing it anyway. That's the definition of brave. Stories like Marcus's multiplied. The center became a beacon. Guardian Watch expanded to 12 cities across 3 states. The model proved replicable, the impact measurable. Ethan's life fell into rhythm. School during the week, volunteer work Thursday and weekends, monthly visits to Throttle's bar, where he was no longer a child but an equal among warriors. On a Saturday in late summer, just before his sophomore year, Ethan arrived at the bar to find Colt sitting alone at a back table. No music playing, no crowd, just the big man and a bottle of whiskey. Ethan knew that posture, that silence. He sat down across from Colt. Rough day, anniversary. Lily died 17 years ago today. I'm sorry. Colt poured 2 fingers of whiskey, didn't drink it, just stared at the amber liquid. Some days are harder than others. Today's one of the hard ones. You want to be alone? No, company's good. They sat in silence. Ethan didn't try to fill it with platitudes or distractions, just existed beside a grieving father the same way Colt had existed beside a terrified child 4 years ago. Finally, Colt spoke. You know what keeps me going? Knowing that Lily's death wasn't meaningless. It destroyed me, absolutely destroyed me. But from that destruction, I built something. Guardian Watch, a promise that no other father would fail the way I did. You didn't fail. I did. I trusted a system that moved too slow. I followed rules instead of instinct, and my daughter paid the price. And now hundreds of kids are safe because you learned from that, because you turned pain into purpose. Colt looked up. His eyes were wet. You get it. Most people don't. They think moving on means forgetting. But I'll never forget. I just learned to carry her memory differently, through action instead of grief. She'd be proud of you. I hope so. God, I hope so. Wyatt and Finn arrived an hour later. They'd come to check on Colt, knowing the significance of the day. The 4 of them sat together, drinking, telling stories, remembering. By evening, other bikers trickled in. The bar filled with brotherhood and memory. Someone put on music. Life resumed its rhythm. But Ethan stayed close to Colt, understanding in a way he hadn't before the depth of what drove this man. The wound that would never fully heal but could be transformed into something redemptive. Fall arrived. Ethan started 10th grade. His reputation preceded him. Some students treated him like a celebrity. Others avoided him, uncomfortable with proximity to trauma. He navigated the social dynamics with the same awareness he'd used to escape the factory. Observe, adapt, survive. Ivy remained his closest friend. They'd bonded in captivity and stayed connected through recovery. She understood things others couldn't. The nightmares that resurged during stress, the hypervigilance in crowds, the way certain smells or sounds could trigger panic. They had lunch together most days, sitting in the courtyard talking about normal teenage things. Classes, teachers, the approaching homecoming dance. You going? Ivy asked, picking at her sandwich. To homecoming, I don't know. Dances aren't really my thing. Come on, we survived a kidnapping. We can survive a school dance. Ethan laughed, when you put it that way. Besides, I'm on the planning committee. I need friendly faces there. Fine, but I'm not wearing a tux. Deal. Homecoming night arrived cool and clear. Ethan wore dark jeans, a button-down shirt, and his leather jacket. The Iron Wolves patch drew stares when he entered the gymnasium, but he ignored them. Ivy found him by the punch table. She wore a simple blue dress that matched her eyes. You came. I said I would. Yeah, but you also said you'd hate every minute. Jury's still out on that. They danced awkwardly, laughed at each other's lack of rhythm, and retreated to the bleachers when a slow song started. Can I ask you something? Ivy said. Sure. Do you ever wish it hadn't happened, the kidnapping, I mean? Like if you could go back and change it, would you? Ethan considered this carefully. I wish you guys hadn't gone through it. I wish I could have stopped it before anyone got hurt. But for myself, I don't know. It was horrible, traumatic. But it also made me who I am, led me to Guardian Watch, to Colt and the club, to purpose. So you're glad it happened. Not glad, but I've accepted it, used it, turned it into something that matters. Ivy nodded. I'm still working on that, accepting it. Some days I'm okay. Other days I'm so angry I can't breathe. That's normal. We all process differently. You're very wise for 15. Trauma ages you fast. They sat in comfortable silence watching their classmates dance and laugh and live unburdened lives. Ethan felt both separate from them and grateful for them. They represented the innocence he'd lost but fought to protect in others. The year progressed. Guardian Watch continued expanding. The youth initiative grew to 32 schools. The app reached 10,000 downloads. Lives were saved. Futures were altered. Ethan turned 16 in January, got his driver's license, bought a used motorcycle with money saved from years of odd jobs and birthday gifts. A small bike, nothing like the massive Harleys ridden by the Iron Wolves. But it was his. Freedom on two wheels. The first place he rode was Throttle's Bar. Colt stood in the parking lot, arms crossed, grinning. Look at you, biker in training. It's not much, Ethan said, killing the engine. Doesn't matter, it's yours, that's what counts. They walked inside together. Ethan had grown to 5'9", still small compared to Colt's towering frame, but no longer a child. His voice had deepened, his shoulders had broadened. He was becoming a man. 2 more years, and you can ride with us officially, Colt said. Chapter already voted. When you turn 18, you're in. Full prospect period waived. You've more than earned your patch. I'm honored. You should be. We don't make exceptions. But you're not an exception. You're family. That night, they had a small celebration. Just the core group. Colt, Wyatt, Finn Beckett, and Ethan. 5 men around a table sharing stories and laughter and brotherhood. Beckett raised his beer, to my son, who survived hell and built heaven from the ashes. They drank. Ethan felt the weight of their respect, their love. These men had become his family in ways that transcended blood. Spring brought graduation season. Ivy, Damon, Ruby, Scom, and Jet were finishing 8th grade. Moving on to high school, Ethan attended their promotion ceremony, watched them walk across the stage, and felt profound pride. They'd all survived. They were all thriving. That was victory. That summer, a journalist from a national magazine came to Ridgemont. She spent weeks interviewing everyone involved in Guardian Watch. Ethan, Colt, Detective Barrett, the parents of rescued children, the students who'd used the app. Her article ran in September. 10 pages detailing the program's origin, growth, and impact. Photos of the community center. Quotes from kids whose lives had been saved. The headline read, "How a Kidnapped Boy in a Biker Gang Revolutionized Child Safety." The article went viral. News networks picked it up. Guardian Watch received inquiries from 43 cities in 20 states. Funding requests, partnership proposals, requests for Colt and Ethan to speak at conferences. The movement they'd started was becoming a national conversation. Through it all, Ethan maintained his routine. School, volunteer work, monthly visits to Throttles. He refused to let fame change the fundamentals. On a cool October evening, and as he sat at the bar drinking his customary orange soda, Colt handed him a worn leather journal. "What's this?" "Read the first page." Ethan opened it. In Colt's handwriting to Ethan, "When you ran into this bar 4 years ago, you saved more than yourself. You saved me. This is my attempt to explain how." The journal was filled with entries. Colt's private thoughts over the past 4 years. His grief over Lily. His transformation through Guardian Watch. His pride in Ethan's growth. The last entry dated that morning read, "Today Ethan is 16. In 2 years he'll ride with us officially. But he's already one of us. Already a leader. Already a man. Lily would have loved him. I hope she's watching. I hope she's proud of what we built in her name." Ethan closed the journal carefully. "I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything. Just know that you matter. Not because of what you survived, but because of what you did with that survival. You turned pain into purpose, trauma into transformation. That's rare. That's powerful. I learned it from you. We learned it from each other. They sat in silence, two souls bound by tragedy and hope. Outside, the desert night settled over Ridgemont. Somewhere a child slept safely because of guardian watch. Somewhere a family was whole because someone intervened. Somewhere a predator was behind bars because a kid found the courage to report. The work continued. The mission endured. And at the heart of it all, a promise made in a bar 4 years ago. A promise kept every single day. Don't let them take me again. They never did. They never would.